Well, welcome everyone. This is Curt Mercadante. I am the host, of course, as you know, of the Freedom Club podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today, and I am very excited to host our interview today with Marc Guberti. He's a USA Today and Wall Street Journal best-selling author with over 100,000 students in over 180 countries enrolled in his online courses. We discussed offline. You've authored now 20-plus books. You're the host of the Breakthrough Success podcast and radio show, where your listeners learn how to achieve their breakthroughs. You also coach content creators and how they can attract more traffic to their content and boost revenue. Marc, thanks so much for joining us today.
Curt, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to providing massive value to the listeners.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. And you know, online, watching you online, looking at your books, there's just a lot of product that you are producing to help other people, whether it's your podcast, your books, your public speaking. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got from A to B, the idea that you wanted to help people be awesome online creators? We talked about you have one book, Write and Grow Rich. How did you get it out of that idea stage to where you are now?
So I've always been about the general idea is I always wanted to do something extraordinary. I didn't know what it was, but I wanted to do that. And I feel like there are a lot of people who they have that same kind of idea where they want to do something that's really big for them. So I dabbled around in blogging for a bit, and then I got the idea of let me get more traffic to this thing because that's what all bloggers want to do. So as I was getting traffic and stuff like that, I thought this is something that I should really be helping people with. This is my true calling, helping people grow their businesses, helping people reach the people who they can positively impact. So that's what the inspiration that really fueled me to write the books, to host Breakthrough Success, create my YouTube channel, do all these different things to help people. So I'd say it all stems from that original idea where I knew what it felt like to not be heard. All content creators do at some point. And then I was able to get heard. I had the audience, I had the traction, and I wanted to help other people do that.
What was your, I work with a lot of folks who they have this idea, they have a concept, they want to help people, they want to produce content, and the fear of change and fear of maybe they're in a career right now that they're not fulfilled, but the thought of doing that and taking the idea and making it actually happen, there's some fear, there's some limiting beliefs that hold them back. Some try it and then face a number of challenges. What have been some of the challenges you've faced, especially at the beginning, but even now as a seasoned content creator and coach?
So when it comes to implementing the idea, that's hard, especially when it's consistency, like with the YouTube. You just got to keep uploading videos again and again and again. So that's definitely a part of it. I am consistent on the platforms, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's easy. A lot of creators make it look easy, but that doesn't mean it's easy. And then if you're writing a book, you've got to really stick with something for weeks, even months, depending on what you're trying to do with the book, how long you want the book to be. So I would say that big challenge is just sticking with the idea to completion and not getting distracted by some of the shiny objects around you as you pursue that idea.
That's awesome. That's great. And name of my podcast is the Freedom Club Podcast. And I talk about freedom. And so for some people, that means entrepreneurship. For some people, freedom to them is a 9-to-5 job, but one that fulfills them and that they feel good. It's like a warm blanket, and that's great. You're an entrepreneur. You're coaching people. You're producing content. I assume, and you appear and watching you online to be fulfilled by what you do. One question I like to ask my guests is the word freedom. What does that word mean to you?
To me, freedom is the ability to do what you love 24/7. So do the work that you love. That means come home to a family that you love, or be in home the family you love if you work from home. So just love your life, the people you're with, the work you're doing 24/7, and having the flexibility to do what you want to do. So it's not like you have to seek someone's approval to go on a vacation or something like that. It's I want to go on a vacation. Okay, I'm going on vacation. That's just what I'm doing. So to me, that's what freedom is to me.
That's awesome. Thanks. And, as I ask people that and guests that, everyone has a unique take on what freedom means. And freedom is so personal to everyone. There are certainly common themes, but I always love to ask that question. I'll probably do an episode where I just string hundreds of them together that I've asked people along the way. and just appreciate that. So thank you. When you talk about content and offline, I used to have a PR and ad agency, and our tagline was telling your story to audiences that matter. And I find a lot of people, I have some courses and trainings now on personal branding. And I find that a lot of people, when they come to me and they're just starting out with their personal brand. And by the way, this was the same. What I'm about to say was the same with large corporations when they're starting a campaign, right? And they start with the tools. I remember, I'll always remember when Google Plus first came out and was a thing, if it even was a thing for a little bit. And I had one client who called a meeting. What's our Google Plus strategy? And it's like, well, Google Plus isn't a strategy. It's a tool. You have to back it up. Where do you start? In terms of broadly, there's objectives, strategy, tactics, tools, those types of things. Where do you suggest that people start when they're looking to build a robust content marketing campaign?
So I think you start with attention, because if you could get people's attention and keep that attention for long periods of time, that's how you'll get the sales. There are people who they have, in my case, they've watched my content for years. They've watched my YouTube videos. They've listened to me for months or something like that. Then they become customers and clients. Now, I do get some customers and clients quickly, but that's usually from like a live appearance on a stage or something like that, where that kind of thing is a lot more common. So I would say start with attention. So what that means is creating engaging content that keeps people on board. So one thing I love about YouTube is they let you see retention rates. So if you throw out content, like, how do you know it's good? If you see people are only watching 10% of your video, that's bad. If people are watching like 50, 60% of your video, that's good. So you want that attention. But you also want attention across multiple platforms, because if you grow on YouTube, you've got the discoverability there. But you also have discoverability on Instagram, discoverability on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Every social network has its own level of discoverability you can get from that platform for people who have no idea who you are. So where all this leads is on YouTube, I make it a point to promote a LinkedIn article if I can. On LinkedIn, in the articles, I will not write a LinkedIn article anymore unless I can embed multiple YouTube videos of mine within that article. With Instagram, I'm promoting my YouTube, and I'm doing this with all my social networks. Like Twitter, I'm leading people to YouTube, and YouTube, I'm leading people. So I'm creating this circular effect where I'm cross-promoting all my social networks with each other, and that in the end, get attention, get people bouncing around, and then get them on my email list, because when they see me on all these different places, that's what they're gonna be like. I see you're everywhere. I need your help.
Is that when, you get them into email, which is, your real estate, you control, you're not subject to the whims of Facebook's algorithms or LinkedIn's changing algorithms, all that. Is that the real action point of your, you get all these folks in your online courses? Is it the attention, you funnel them down? Do you get most of them actually taking that action to buy and join through email by bringing them down to the funnel? Or is it kind of everywhere, dropping links in YouTube, LinkedIn, all that?
It's mostly email. So okay. It's like I will work to get someone on my email list. I'll mention something at the beginning or at the end of my content, depending on where I want to put it, to get people on my email list. The social networks, you don't see too many sales from the network unless you do a live or something like that. But they're more of a let's boost the discoverability. Let's get a bunch of people who have never heard of me to suddenly see my content. And then the main goal, get them on my email list, because that's where the money comes. Got it. Okay, cool. Now, you talked about consistency and that, you're consistent, but that doesn't mean it's easy. And whether you talk about YouTube, you talk about podcasts, I had a few weeks ago, I had Victor Antonio on my podcast. He's a sales trainer. He had his own show on Spike TV. And he told me about, he left his corporate job as he was in international sales, was like, I'm going to be a keynote speaker. I'm going to be an influencer. I'm going to go. And at the time, this was in 2001. So no Facebook, and YouTube, he started uploading videos to YouTube, and he gave himself 100 videos. And he's like, listen, I'm going to do 100 videos. Anything less than that,
and I'm not giving it my all. I'm not having a good sample size, right? So I'm going to do 100 videos. He said it was nothing. There was like nothing, no traction, no audience. He got to 100 and all of a sudden it just started taking off. And we talk, and I talk a lot about, there's so many now social networks out there. My bread and butter has been LinkedIn. Others are YouTube. Some people are Twitter. How do you know when to, maybe you don't give it up, but maybe you stop focusing on it? Where at what point are you like, listen, my audience, I've tried a number of things. My audience isn't here. I'm going to double down on YouTube, or I'm going to double down on LinkedIn and not spend as much time on Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah, that's a great insight, because if you're on all the social networks, it's really hard to get good at them all. But if you double down, like I first doubled down on Twitter, and if you get good at a social network, it's better to get good at all of them. So I would say when you figure out which of your social networks is driving the most engagement and it's really obvious, I would double down on that one. But at the same time, I would try to combine them. So I'm really focusing on YouTube now, because the great thing about YouTube is you could, you can do posts there. That's a relatively new feature, but you can do video. Like video is like the main way to create on YouTube and get big there. So what I do is I'll just take that YouTube video, put it up on YouTube, and then I'll either do snippets and post them on other social networks, or I'll just use the other social networks to drive traction to my YouTube channel. So sometimes it may not necessarily be I could give up this social network. It could just be use all of your other social networks to point to your big one or to the one that you want to grow, because I get that we have such a limited amount of time. We do want to focus on the ones that are yielding the best results. But even if it's a simple post saying, check out this video I just posted, or check out my Instagram, or whatever it is, it keeps all of your social networks in play.
And you talk a lot about the cross promotion and kind of that circularity, if that's even an appropriate word. Is that really where you see some of the magic happen in terms of growing YouTube and growing, making sure that YouTube video gets on LinkedIn, or making sure your LinkedIn article gets on Facebook, and really that cross promotion? Is that where a lot of the magic happens?
Yeah, definitely. Like I'll use YouTube and LinkedIn, for example, because that's working really well for me. The YouTube grows on its own. Then I lead people to a LinkedIn article, and then people see all the other YouTube videos. So when someone's watching a YouTube video, they only see one of them, unless you've got like cards in play in your video. But lead people LinkedIn, people see the YouTube. But then there are a lot of people, because I do stuff on LinkedIn. So there are people who will comment on the post, who maybe they don't know about my YouTube channel yet, but they've known me for a while on LinkedIn, and then they see my videos and subscribe to my channel. So I'd say just that, like, the focus here is attention. Attention is the key word when it comes to creating content, marketing content, and to really bounce people around like that. That's how you keep attention for a very long amount of time.
Got it. In terms of audience, coming up with that ideal customer persona that you want. And I tell the story, I did a startup workshop in Cairo, Egypt last year, and there was a guy who had seen me on LinkedIn and was like, oh, you're successful on LinkedIn. How do I use it? How can I use it? How can I monetize it? And he was like in a medical device company, and his audience was like seniors who were retired and physically challenged. And I'm like, well, maybe LinkedIn is the place, but are you sure? Are you sure they're on LinkedIn? And he couldn't answer that question. How do you find your ideal audience and speak directly to them? And then with your clients, what do you suggest to them to do that? Because maybe, yeah, everyone in the world is on Facebook, but maybe they're really spending more time on LinkedIn, and it's easier to find them.
So there's different ways to find your specific audience. On LinkedIn's actually the best for finding individuals, because you can search people by location, you can search people by occupation. So LinkedIn, you have a lot more to play with when it comes to finding specific people. But there are some universal ways. Like on Facebook and LinkedIn, for example, you have groups. So sometimes you got to build your own audience, which I feel like everyone should be doing. But other times you could piggyback on someone else's audience, and you can participate in groups to grow your audience and put yourself in front of the people who you need to be putting yourself in front of. So I actually hired a YouTube coach. That's something I do. I like to hire coaches because that makes me a better coach. That makes me a better creator. And I found this YouTube coach from a Facebook group because someone who I saw from a Facebook group, I interviewed that person, and that person said, check out this person who is a YouTube coach. So sometimes just being active in groups puts you in a better position because it's a more meaningful relationship with like-minded people. So that's something I would say everyone do because you're leveraging someone else's audience. And another great thing is collaborations also. So we're doing this interview right now. I'm going to promote this to my audience. So you're going to get more people who fit your avatar because we speak to entrepreneurs and similar-minded audiences. So if you collaborate with people in your space and you each promote the content that you're in, that's going to give you that audience over time, which is why I recommend podcasting and virtual summits and YouTube with other creators. So those are just some ideas. And even for blogging, letting people guest post on your site where they bring people to the content.
That's awesome. And talking podcasting, it's, I've been doing this since January of last year. So over a year and a half. Podcasting is a little bit of a different animal. It's getting better in terms of analytics and being able to see some of the data, but that's even changing now and getting better, but it's still not, you talk about like YouTube and retention and finding out where people are coming from and finding out, sometimes you look at, I use Libsyn and I look at the data and it's like, there's no rhyme or reason for why all of a sudden on that day when I had no episode, it jumped, and it was like a Sunday, it jumped up, 500 or whatever. When you're doing a podcast, it's easy to get frustrated. It's easy to feel like you're yelling down an empty tunnel. You don't know if anyone's listening. What do you suggest for people who, not just starting out, but maybe they're 2 months into it and they're feeling, my goodness, what am I doing? I don't know if I'm reaching anyone. I can kind of see some stats, but there's no rhyme or reason. I can't tell which type of my content really generates it because, at the beginning, especially, it's like the difference between 50 and 25. There's no real data.
So I would just say keep going with it. There's going to be more insight in that answer, obviously. But I would say keep going with it because there are a lot of creators who it takes them a while to achieve that success. But I would look at your content. I would also do some research and see, is this actually something ranking? Podcasting, that stuff is a little harder. But if you look around and you see, if you just do some searches to see, how many episodes are around a certain topic, that can help you. I know for YouTube, there's great resources like vidIQ and TubeBuddy, which let you see how a keyword's actually performing. So when it comes to repurposing some podcast content on YouTube, I will do a YouTube search to see which question I should ask and which answer should turn into a video based on how well that keyword's doing on YouTube. So I would just do some more research on the content. Another thing is think about the goal. What are you trying to even do with your podcast? Because there could be a different way to achieve it. So one of the goals my clients have is they want to use their podcast to get more clients, and that's their main goal. Well, you don't need a ton of listeners for that because one of the things that I do is I turn some of my guests into clients, and then that's how that relationship works. So I know some people who they start a podcast, 0 downloads, thousands of dollars from it already, just because they turned their guests into clients. So I would also say that the research is good and the think of better ways to promote is good, but what's your goal? If it's to get clients, then you just interview a few guests who fit your avatar.
That's great advice. When it comes to content, what, for you personally, what's your mix of organic to, do you do any paid?
Not really. I just do more of the organic. I like the collaborations because I feel like with the organic, it forces you to know people on a deeper level. You can't just do organic and it's just you. If you do organic, you have a big organic strategy in play, you are going to develop strong relationships with people. That's just how organic works. So I primarily do that.
And so Facebook, you focus on an organic strategy and it seems to be working for you in terms of, because a lot of times, it's Facebook's pay to play and, but the organic is working for you on Facebook too.
Oh yeah. Facebook is pay to play unless you're joining the groups. So if you're in the groups, it's organic. But if you have a page and you're trying to get exposure for that, it's definitely more on the pay to play side.
And YouTube organic too. You said you just surpassed, did you say 3,500?
Yeah, 3,500. Definitely by the
3,500.
time this video's up. I mean, this interview's up.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So one of your books is one of your 20 plus books is Content Marketing Secrets. I don't want you to give it away because I want people to go to Amazon, buy the book. But can you give us a taste of what some secrets are that someone could expect to find in that book?
Sure. So Content Marketing Secrets, it's one of those, like, this is the main book you need on content marketing. We go over content creation, we go over content marketing, social media marketing, content monetization. So how do we create content that reaches a ton of people and makes money? That is what Content Marketing Secrets is all about. We take a deep dive into each of the key social networks. We take a dive into some best practices for creating content, like how have I created 20 plus books, thousands of videos, even more blog posts, and how you can put out more content and how to have the time to market all that content. Because when you create a prolific amount of content, you got to do a prolific amount of marketing for it to all be worth it. So that's just a little bit of what you'll get from the book Content Marketing Secrets.
Cool. And you know, having written so many books, I have my book is out in September, and I set a goal this year, in December of last year for this year, like I'm going to publish my book, and I set that outcome, focused on it, did it. And in 1 month, it's going to happen. And I talked about it on a LinkedIn Live the other day, and I had a number of people say, "Oh my gosh, I've been wanting to write my book for 2 years. I've been wanting to write it for 3. I start the book, and then you've written 20 plus books. There are people who've had that book idea for 20 years, and they can't get it done. What would you tell someone to get off the dime, get at least their first book done from someone who has done 20 plus books?"
I'd say spend more time with the outline, just to make sure you have it fully mapped out. I'm just going to grab 2 of my books for a second just to show you another example of this. But like my book, Content Marketing Secrets, as you can see, very thick book. My other book, The Wealthy Author, and this is what I do for more of them now, not as thick. So you don't have to write a 200-page book, 300-page book. You could just do like an 80 to 100-page book. And then people are going to read that book more likely from start to finish, because if you have to read, a book like The Wealthy Author, where it's like this, or Tools of Titans, you could finish my book in one sitting, but unless you really love Tim Ferriss or you really love the idea of the book, no way you're finishing that in a few days, let alone one sitting. And if you make the books shorter, they're easier for you to write. So Content Marketing Secrets, that's a little over 60,000 words, while The Wealthy Author and all the other books I do are around 20,000 words. So if you make your books shorter, it's easier for you to finish them. It's easier for you to write multiple books also and build up your book portfolio. And it's what can really help you go from I can't write this book to 20,000 words. It's not too bad.
Where do you're putting out videos, you're writing books, you're doing keynote speaking, you're doing the podcast. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of folks out there who's, I'm busy. I'm too busy. And I can't stand that word, because I think busy is a choice. And some people wear busy as a badge of honor to like show how important they are.
Yep.
What do you say to someone who is like, wow, you're doing all this stuff, I just don't have time to do it. And here you are, 20 plus books, podcasts, YouTube videos, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, keynotes, podcast, all this. What do you say to someone who says they don't have enough time to do all of this?
I mean, I would say you don't care enough, because we all have time for something, because it's not like we have no time. We can't do anything. We just sit in the corner for 24 hours. We all have time for stuff. Now, one of the things that I hear, one of the things that happens, if you're a parent and you want to spend time with your kids, that's great, because that's one of the most important things. That's where you should really be focusing a lot of your time. But when it comes to like people who say, I don't have the time to do keynote or to podcast or to write books, I feel like that's also a lazy answer, because you don't look at your schedule. Like, I'm going back into school soon. I have my last semester. I get out early. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do podcast episodes and videos during the car rides. So
Got it.
it's not just like I'm listening to music, and that's a great opportunity for so many people. And then they'll say, I don't have time to do a podcast, but I don't have time for a YouTube channel, but I have time to watch a Netflix series. So I think it's a very lazy answer that doesn't let people like really hone in on their schedule. Because if you do a minute by minute analysis, like if you do like, I'm going to do this for 30 minutes, that for 30 minutes, this is my 30-minute break, this is my hour of power where I write my book. If you do stuff like that, you're going to realize you have a lot more time to play with. I think, and if you say you don't have enough time, I'm going to bet you don't have a schedule in play at all or any systems in place.
Yeah, and a lot of people I find they try to hide behind excuses. You know,
Yep.
if they're first building their company, it's like, well, why aren't you selling? Oh, because my website isn't exactly right. My logo isn't exactly right. It's like I had 10 clients before I even had either of those things. Or when it comes to a podcast, they hide behind, well, so-and-so told me I need an audio mixer and I need this. And what kind of mic do you use? And for the first, I mean, I just got this mic set up a month or two ago. There were times last year where I had my phone, I had an app on my phone, I'd sit in my car and I'd record a podcast. It doesn't matter. Down the line, yeah, if you want to take it to the next level. Right. But the bottom line is content. I used to work in political campaigns. And back before we even were doing heavy email. And I actually once wrote a press statement for a reporter in a restaurant. Actually, it was in a bar on a cocktail napkin. And then I went to the corporate world and I had someone who was so hell-bent on the margins in a press release being right. It's like, I wrote this. I had the same effect writing this damn thing on a cocktail napkin. And I apply that now. It's like, stop hiding behind the mic you're going to use. Stop hiding. And a lot of people start out like, oh, I'm going to buy a high-end camera, and I got to wait till that camera comes in before I do my first LinkedIn video. What do you use, Curt? It's like, I use my phone. You know, content is content. If you have quality content, right, that's going to shine through regardless of the type of camera, the type of mic, and the bells and whistles.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to keep creating content. I mean, my first video, not the best at quality. I used my computer's microphone and all that stuff. I set the computer up on an ironing board, so definitely not the ideal setup, but it was a video. And it's one more video than people who say I need a perfect setup.
Marc, you said you're going back to school.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I am 21 right now.
So for everyone listening, Marc's 21 years old. He's written more books than he spent years on this earth. He's got a successful podcast. He's giving keynote speeches. If you're 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, and you're saying it can't be done, if you try to convince yourself of a limiting belief that you don't have the experience to get it done, that no one's going to want to hear your voice, I want you to check out Marc. I want you to check out his content. I want you to get his book, Content Marketing Secrets, or one of the other 20 plus books that he has. If you're listening to this, I want you to go to his podcast, start listening to that. He's 21 years old. He's done all this incredible stuff. And if you're 40 thinking, I can't get it done, or I don't have enough time to get it done, look at Marc as your example. And yes, I want you to feel a little bit bad. I want to light a fire under you that you have zero excuse for not getting it done. And so, Marc, I really want to thank you for coming on the show. When people listen, I've given some of these links, I've given some of the examples, but if people want to go to a one-stop shop to find more about you, subscribe to the podcast, get your books, where should they go?
I think if you Google me, Marc Guberti, that's a great start. I also have contentmarketingsuccesssummit.com. Over 70 people are part of that. It's an evergreen event. And also one of the things I like to say, it's never too late to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just a slogan I just came up with a few days ago, but that's Marc Guberti as well.
Well, Marc, thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure.